In an interview with the French Le Figaro daily, President Al-Assad says Syria is fighting terrorists, the majority of whom are al-Qaeda members, and cannot be dealt with except through elimination. Russia and Iran warn against the repercussions of an American military aggression on Syria. Our armed forces continue its achievements in combating terrorism across the country. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Irado Krikorian with the news in English. In an interview with the French Le Figaro daily, President Bashar al-Assad said, Syria is fighting terrorists, the majority of whom belong to al-Qaeda organization, who cannot be dealt with except through eliminating them. Those who support the terrorists politically, financially or militarily are enemies of the Syrian people, the President stressed, and anyone who has contributed to the killing of a Syrian Arab soldier is an enemy of Syria's. The President added that those who accuse Syria of using chemical weapons are responsible for presenting the evidence. We challenged them to present one single proof for such accusation, but they have not. On the American aggression, Washington threatens to launch on Syria. President al-Assad said, "The strong is he who prevents the war, not who ignites it." He pointed out that chaos, wars and extremism will spread everywhere if such aggression occurs. In reply to a question on how to stop the war and the crisis in Syria, the President said that since the beginning he has affirmed that the solution is through dialogue. However, we are fighting today terrorists, 80 to 90% of whom are linked to al-Qaeda, President al-Assad added. Consequently, an end must be put to the Saudi, Turkish, French and British support and to the smuggling of armed men from Jordan. Then we can talk about political steps, the President affirmed. In reply to a question whether His Excellency would sacrifice his life for the sake of Syria, the President said, "There is no difference between a president and a citizen. We have two choices," the President added, either to fight and defend our country against terrorism or to surrender. This region has been constantly witnessing wars, but it has never surrendered and will not surrender. The President stressed that the Syrian Arab army was able to enter any place it wanted. Why is it permissible to fight terrorism in other countries and not in Syria? The President asked. The President concluded his interview affirming that we must distinguish between the enemy people and the enemy state. The French people are not an enemy, but the policy of their state is hostile to the Syrian people. This animosity will end when the French state changes its policy. Head of the International Relations Committee at the Russian Duma Council, Alexei Pushkov, has warned against the repercussions of any U.S. aggression on Syria. No one knows what will happen after such an aggression, he stressed, as the region as a whole would risk the danger of war. Pushkov added that everyone would lose control when such an aggression is launched, adding that chaos and extremism will spread in the region. He pointed out that the U.S. redeployment of its aircraft carrier Nimitz and 4 other destroyers in the Red Sea shows its determination to start a military intervention in Syria. On his part, Director of the Middle East and North Africa Department at the Russian Foreign Ministry, Sergei Verchinin, has warned that the use of force against Syria would lead to adverse results and would affect the system of international relations as a whole. Verchinin described the situation as difficult in the presence of a real danger of using force. He stressed that Russia's policy is to stand firmly against such situation. The Russian Minister of Defense asserted that the Russian detecting devices registered launching 2 ballistic missiles on the Mediterranean region. Speaker of the Iranian Shura Council, Ali Larijani, has affirmed that the possible American military aggression on Syria will further expand the scope of the crisis, affirming that the only solution should be political. Larijani said unreasonable countries in the region are paving the way for the U.S. fall in the swamp, and the Americans themselves have the willingness to do so. Larijani said in case of a military attack against Syria, the war will move to other places as well. Brazil has reiterated rejection of any military action against Syria without the approval of the UN Security Council. It stressed its opposition to foreign intervention in the internal affairs of other countries. Brazilian Foreign Minister Luis Alberto Vigarido has said that military intervention happens only in the case of self-defense, as the UN resolution stipulates, as well as in the case of a unanimous UN Security Council's vote. He added that such a case is not present today. Therefore, we consider the use of force away from those two cases as a violation of international law, the Brazilian Foreign Minister stressed. Czech President Miloš Zeman has reiterated his country's rejection of any American military strike on Syria, stressing that this would be in the interest of al-Qaeda terrorist organization. Zeman was astonished at the West's contradictory policy, as it supports al-Qaeda in Syria and at the same time fights this terrorist organization in Afghanistan. On his part, former Czech Foreign Minister Karl Schwarzenberg has warned against the repercussions of military intervention in Syria because it will render the terrorists stronger than the democratic and liberal forces in the region. Welcome back. The army has seized a truck loaded with Turkish flour in the Schene in Palmyra's suburbs and captures the driver and all the terrorists in the truck. During a combing operation in the southern farms in Palmyra, our armed forces seized a terrorist warehouse full of ammunition, explosive devices, hand grenades, military uniforms and stolen medical tools. The army had tightened control of the southern farms in Palmyra last Thursday after eliminating the last terrorist gathering there. In Yabrud, in Damascus countryside, the Syrian Arab army eliminated 2 armed terrorist groups and killed and injured other terrorist groups in Al-Rahaiba city. A terrorist group attacked Al-Jibse gas line in Al-Sfera area north of Deir Zor, which led to the explosion of the line and suspending the work of Al-Jibse gas factory, which produces about 1.5 million cubic meters of gas every day. The targeted line provides the power stations of Al-Tim and Az-Zara, and that will lead to reducing the quantity of gas which is used as a fuel for gas turbines, which in turn would lead to reduce the production of the power in Deir Zor and Al-Hasaka governorates. Finally, the Administrative Jurisdiction Court in Egypt ruled halting Al Jazeera live channel's transmission and closing its office because it threatens the Egyptian national security, since it works with no professional standards and it is not licensed to work in Egypt. Moreover, the court also ruled to halt the transmission of 2 channels that belong to the Muslim Brotherhood and to close their offices too. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy.